Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a night that a title could be decided. We're here today in NRRL for round 7 of the season. This is the Chinese Grand Prix, the penultimate round of the season, where F1 Mikey Boy could be crowned champion tonight. My name is JP, I'm your commentator, and alongside me in the commentary booth tonight is my brother Lewis. Welcome to the stream, Lewis. How you doing?
I'm doing good. This should be, as we're expecting, a pretty historic night and one that we will be talking about for the rest of NRRL's existence.
Most certainly. Now, we do know that only one champion has been crowned in NRRL so far, that being Sab Gaming in the Sundays tiers. Well, this will be the first champion in Formula 2 machinery, and F1 Mikey Boy looks to state his claim as the first ever Formula 2 champion. Now, qualifying, it can be important. There's a 2-point gap between Mikey and Fake Scouser. So, in either the sprint or the feature race, all Mikey needs to do is is just beat him, basically, by 2 points, and Mikey will be crowned world champion. Now, it's not as easy as it sounds. Obviously, the points are differently shared between Formula 1 and Formula 2. However, it still will not be easy. We are here for the one-shot qualifying. It looks like is doing more than enough. So we come towards the hairpin now, essentially the last corner. We're on board with Mikey, but just Dave, he's been at the top of the timesheets for pretty much the entire lap, and it does look like he will be starting from pole. Fake Scouser crucially in second. Mikey manages to make it over in fourth. We've got MCL in third, a few disqualifications for laps being invalidated. Hash still on his lap. But for the World Championship leader, only 2 points behind the man he needs to beat tonight. That's not a bad starting position.
No, and it isn't just this race he's got, so he's got plenty of time. I don't think he'll be panicking too much at that, but I'm still pretty confident that he thinks he can win this title tonight.
Most certainly. Now, I'm going to quickly figure out the point system, because I'm pretty sure we do use the same point system as normal Formula 2. So let me just inquire quickly. Alright, the question has been posed, so we will see if we can get an answer from any of the admins. And we now look ahead to the sprint race, which is obviously a reverse grid race. And let's see. So obviously the top 8 score points in the sprint race, then the top 10 in the feature. Now, in the sprint and the feature races, there is a bonus point for fastest lap, provided they finish in the top 10. And obviously, with only a 2-point real gain that Mikey needs to make, it could be won in a matter of weird ways. He could take 10th in the feature race, and although no, that's a lie, because Fake Scouser will also score points. So I'm making up things in my head. But let's say Fake Scouser DNFs both. Mikey could take scoring 8th and 10th in the sprint and feature race and would win the World Championship. Or, in the sprint race, he could finish 8th with the fastest lap and would be crowned World Champion, provided Fake Scouser doesn't score. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a little bit difficult to work it out on the go, because obviously if Fake Scouser then outscores Mikey in the sprint, we need to work out how many points he's got. and how many points that Mikey will need in the feature race. Ideally, either Mikey just outscores him and wins the title in the sprint, or Fake Scouser beats him in both. And then it makes our jobs a bit easier. But I highly doubt that's what's going to happen, because if there is anything I know about this league, it is always unpredictable. Isn't that right, Lewis?
Absolutely. I don't think Mikey will just be looking at, oh, I can finish here, I can finish there. I'm sure he'll be aware of what he needs at minimum, but he will be looking to win this title with a bang. He will be looking to take both the victories if he can, which he certainly can do from the position he's in, but it should be very difficult.
5 red lights. So here are the drivers here ahead of the Chinese sprint, and it is lights out and away we go. And it is PRF1 Viper who leads, starting from pole position. Josh, I must say, quite inquisitively, although I am going to come back to that, because Fake Scouse has not had an ideal start. He's currently in 8th, and Mikey up to 5th already. So Mikey immediately putting himself in a position where he can win the World Championship. Now, what I was going to say about Josh is he immediately retired from the qualifying session, which meant he starts 2nd for the sprint race, which I think is quite interesting. And quite interestingly as well, Fake Scouser is off of the track without a front wing. So the championship, well in Mikey's hands, as he's currently running 4th. He's got his teammate ahead of him in 3rd. And Fake Scouser, with it all to do, 11th at basically the back of the grid with no front wing. And the championship firmly in Mikey's hands, as we're on board with the VAR man now, coming round this very long right-hander towards the back straight. And it looks like Josh is struggling, and Dinosaur is going to look to come at him, and Mikey's gaining on the pair of them all the time. There goes Josh. Mikey and Dinosaur are through, and Mikey's going to look to go through on his teammate as well, and he has done. So the championship leader up to 2nd, and you can see his title rival in the background. No front wing. He will have to pit at the end of this lap. And while Dinosaur fights back for Mikey, all Mikey needs to do is finish in 7th place. Josh comes into the pits to retire from the session. Fake Scouser doesn't pit. So with no front wing, Fake Scouser is going to continue on in this race. That's a questionable choice, I must say.
Can't quite understand why he would make that choice. But is he at the stage of thinking all hope is lost? Potentially, but I think that's a little bit too risky, as we have Chinzilla retires as well. Obviously no virtual or full safety car. As Mikey now looks to try and get back past his teammate and up into 2nd.
That is a very questionable choice from Fake Scouser, and I mean, you can see the time dropping all the time, really. Big gainers on the opening lap. Hash up 6 positions, Just Dave up 5. Mikey, the man that is looking to win the World Championship in this race, up 4 positions into the podium places, and he is very well placed to try and become World Champion tonight. We'll look at the tyres. So Dinosaur, interestingly, on the soft compound tyres, you would imagine will pull up to the back of PRF1 Viper, who currently leads this sprint race. Kevin Baker on the back of Mikey, you would imagine, will rock up to the back of the VAR, as we see Paul Codd losing position to Devil. Obviously, DRS is enabled on this lap. We see Viper going a bit wide there, and that is going to pull Dinosaur in towards the DRS duct, and he does get DRS, does Dinosaur. Mikey obviously getting DRS on his teammate. Kevin Baker behind getting that DRS as well, and fastest lap going to Kevin Baker. So Mikey does still have a lot to think about. There's still a handful of laps to go left in this sprint, and Mikey will have to remain calm and remain focused to try and win this World Championship. Yes, he only needs to finish 7th, as Fake Scouser finally does come into the pit lane and gets it. He retires. Fake Scouser retires.
Wow.
So all Mikey has to do is finish 7th or above, and he becomes World Champion.
That is the ideal scenario for Mikey. And that is, you have to feel for Fake Scouser there. Why would he have not chosen to come in? That is very confusing, as we said at the time, but has that cost him?
I mean, you would imagine so. He came into the pits with no front wing after doing a lap extra than he really should have. He then got a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Then he retired, as we see Viper going very wide there, and Dinosaur will be well within the DRS and look to try and gain. Mikey will also have the DRS on his teammate. Dinosaur is gaining on Viper, but it doesn't look like enough as we go into the braking zone. Braking very late is Dinosaur and actually going for the move. There's big contact between the two leaders and Mikey is right behind this and he will know he cannot have any sort of contact with anybody, especially his own teammate, if he wants to keep his championship hopes alive. As Dinosaur now is rocking up to the back of Viper. Mikey is also gaining on this fight and is going to try and follow his teammate through. Backs out of it quite smartly. Looks to go towards the inside. Viper covers that off. Dinosaur around the outside of the leader. Viper with the better traction though. There is contact again through turn 2. Dinosaur struggling a little bit for traction, but does manage to reclaim the lead. Viper though, good traction on the exit. These two are going to be wheel to wheel once more. Who's going to be last of the late breakers? Looks like it's going to be Viper. Gets the move done. Back up into the lead.
Good move there, but this has invited, as you say, a lot of people onto the back. This battle for the lead now really a top 4. Mikey just staying in there for now. Very, very smart move, I would say. Doesn't need to risk anything. But you would imagine that when the opportunity comes, he should come and try to take it. But I don't think that this will be the end of this, as with the long straight up next, I get the feeling we're about to see this once again.
Most certainly, Dinosaur much closer to Viper than he was last lap, and Dinosaur will know he needs to try and get ahead as quickly as possible on those soft compound tyres to try and eke out a lead. He didn't have the world's best exit, but he does have the DRS, and he is gaining towards the Invicta car. He keeps in the slipstream, moves to the inside. It's a very, very late braking move from the VAR man. Goes off the track himself, as does Viper. Mikey still involved in this fight, looking to the inside of his teammate at the final corner. A bit of an unorthodox overtaking place as Dinosaur smashes over the sausage curb on the inside, and Kevin Baker is looking to put Mikey under a bit of pressure as here we go with the two leaders again then. Dinosaur this time chooses the inside. The move is done before the corner comes up. Viper actually goes into the back of Dinosaur there and now does have the inside line. That will turn to the outside for turn 2. And again, these two wheel to wheel on the exit, very close between the pair of them. And the Invicta and the VAR separated by mere millimeters. Viper once again, though, able to get the move done. Dinosaur has a sniff down the inside, isn't able to go for it. Viper runs a little bit wide. Nothing major, though. And Viper, stark defense of this lead, doing a very good job out in front.
Absolutely. To keep the lead, it's difficult with this amount of people on the back of you. But even when he's losing it, he's not getting too anxious. He's remaining calm, getting back the lead. And that is the sign of somebody that can win races at the highest level.
Most certainly that. He doesn't seem spooked at all by the VAR behind him. He's just continuing to eke out in front now. And look at the gap he's got as we go through the long old right-hander. And Mikey is actually very close to his teammate and is pulling up to the back of his teammate and is going to the inside of his teammate. The World Championship leader with an incredible chance of winning the championship tonight. Dinosaur lets go of the position. Mikey moves up into second and will now look to try and challenge for the lead of this race.
So, we already know all he has to do is finish in the top 7. But as we said, he isn't going to be satisfied with just that. So here we go then. Viper versus Mikey. Could this be what will be the champion this year versus a future champion. Certainly looks it with the pace Viper is showing. Paul Codd retires there in not fully in the pit lane. So I'm not too sure what's happened there.
He's almost done a Lewis Hamilton, it would seem like.
Yeah.
Very strange retirement in the pit lane, I must say, but towards the front of the field, still action going on between these leaders, and Dinosaur is just starting to fall back a bit. And is that the soft compound tyres starting to give up? He is dropping and has now dropped out of the DRS gap and will not get the drag reduction system open down the main straight. And that is going to harm his chances of not only gaining back up to his teammate, but keeping Kevin Baker behind. But we're on board with Mikey, the man that is pursuing a first world championship, and he is gaining on Viper. And the DRS will open now, and he can begin to rock up to the back of the Invicta. He is gaining. He looks to the outside, does Mikey, and the man looking poised to become world champion does move into the lead. There's contact as Viper goes into the back of him. Nothing too damaging. Just Dave and Kevin Baker both going at it. Kevin manages to regain that position. But we've been speaking about it all sprint race long. All Mikey has to do is finish above 7th. He is not satisfied with that. He is going for the win in this sprint race to truly put the cherry on the icing. And that is exactly what he is doing at the minute. Mikey leads on lap 7.
We know his ability to go through the field is second to none. And up 6 places in 7 laps. That is remarkable.
Incredible stuff from the VAR man. And they are really pulling out a gap on Dinosaur and Kevin Baker and Just Dave, who are in a 3-car battle for the final podium position. And I will pose a question to you, Lewis. So you see Dinosaur, currently the man with track position on the soft compound tyres, though. Then you look at someone like Just Dave, who might be 2 cars behind, but on what you would argue are the better tyres. If you could be any car in this 3-car train, what cockpit would you be in?
I think I'd probably be at the front, to be honest. That's where you want to be. Or is there's a slight run wide? Can Kevin... There is contact and he's actually forced onto the grass there. But I think the old commentator's curse there. I say I'd like to be at the front, and then within seconds he's at the back of the train. So yeah, I think I'd... Not too sure, because this has the ability to change quite quickly.
And changing quickly it is, as Just Dave goes up the inside of the hairpin, and Dinosaur throwing it into the hairpin, and Kevin Baker had to get out of the way to avoid a collision there and does end up losing the position. Now, if this was real F1, you probably would argue that Dinosaur gained an advantage by going off track, but no such thing in the F1 games, and Dinosaur will move into 4th. Just Dave moving himself into 3rd place in the final podium position. Lap 8 of 12 here, and Mikey is still leading. It's very close between himself and Viper, but Mikey doing more than enough to become world champion.
And this is what we've expected time and time again. Although the race win isn't sealed yet, still being put under a little bit of pressure from Viper. But we know Mikey under pressure can perform very, very well. And he looks like those nerves of becoming world champion haven't really affected him at any point. Still 4 laps to go though. And as those laps come down, I'm sure it will start to sink in for him. But he doesn't look like he is under any real threat of a mistake here.
I think there's 2 kinds of drivers in this situation. You're on course, you know it's almost really inevitable that you're going to win your first world championship, and either the pressure really gets to you and you overthink it, and it can start to make you make mistakes or put too much pressure on you, or, you know, a lot of bad things can happen inside that cockpit when you are under pressure. Or there's someone like Mikey that knows what they need to do, knows the job isn't done until that checkered flag waves, and is just completely prepared to do whatever they need to do, get in the zone, get in that flow state, focus up, and the celebrations begin once you have officially won the World Championship. I would personally like to say I am the second, although admittedly I do get quite nervous before a normal race, let alone going into a race where I can become world champion. In some ways, those nerves can be good because it almost motivates you to have a better race and to race a lot cleaner and put your car in positions that you know you can't have an incident or anything like that. Sometimes it can cause you to make mistakes and you play it too safe.
Yeah, but I think when you're in a position that Mikey's in at the moment where you're not going to lose 3 seconds in 6 positions in 2 and a bit laps, I think there's a level of playing it safe, but also you can just kind of take the reins off and try and add another win to your tally.
Most certainly, and that is the thing. Mikey, he's won many a race in Formula 2 machinery, in Formula 1 machinery. He is an incredible driver and will want to add to that list of wins. Viper, a bit more of an inexperienced driver when it comes to NRRL, but Mikey just showing he knows what he needs to do, and he just has a few more tours of this circuit and he will be able to crown himself world champion. Kevin Baker and Dinosaur still fighting away massively on the soft compound tyres, and Devil Diddley is just gaining a little bit on those guys. He does have a penalty though, does the Invicta man, and while his teammate battling away with Mikey for the lead of this race, Devil just having a bit more of a quiet one, but on those medium tyres will, you would imagine, inevitably rock up to the back of that fight. Just Dave in a bit of no man's land in third place, but he will not mind that. A podium position will always be taken from any of these drivers. Viper still hugging the back of Mikey's car. Nothing doing for the Invicta man thus far.
And it can be very frustrating when you have been leading the race at times and you're sticking with the leader, but you just cannot find a way through. But you can't get yourself too bogged down. You have to just watch as the laps go down and just try and force him into a mistake. The problem is that the driver you're trying to force into a mistake is a driver that doesn't make many of them. So it can be quite disheartening, but he's doing well to keep up with him, but just isn't working the way he would want.
Most certainly, and I mean, Mikey, I don't know if we've ever seen him make a mistake. He is just, he's almost like a robot. It's like Haaland when he first came to the Premier League. Everyone's just thinking this guy's got to be some sort of AI Terminator creation, because the guy just does not fault. No matter what track it is, no matter where he is, no matter what car he's driving, he is just on the pace immediately. It doesn't take him a few laps to get fired up or to get into the zone. From the first time he steps in the cockpit till he gets out, he is absolutely ruthless, and there is not a thing that will stop him winning races and winning championships, as we are now on lap 11 of 12, the penultimate lap of this Chinese sprint, and just 2 more tours of this iconic venue, and Mikey will be crowned Formula 2 world champion.
And a thoroughly, thoroughly deserved season, because we were I remember commentating a race in Hungary, which really started his turn of form into the driver he is now, where he just lit up the field and absolutely showed the hallmark of a champion that day that has continued on ever since.
Exactly that. He got all the points he could have in Hungary. He got all the points he could have in Silverstone. He got all the points he could have in Canada. He was second in Spain. He was third, in Belgium. He just does not let up at all. He's not been off the podium once this season. That is how good he is. There has not been a single race where he's not been on the podium. He is going to have won as many races as he has not. It's a 50% hit rate for him. It's a 100% hit rate when you look at podiums. You just wonder how he does it. It's absolutely incredible. But as we move on now towards the final corner, and Mikey has one final tour left of this circuit, and he will know the nerves will start to set in a little bit harder. He has got 1 minute and 47 seconds until he can crown himself world champion, and it will start to feel a little bit different in the cockpit. He will start to understand what he is doing, but Viper is putting him under all sorts of pressure, and this might actually be good for Mikey mindset-wise, as he has to focus on the battle that he's currently in, because Viper is absolutely going for it here with Mikey. And as Mikey looks to become world champion, Viper will not let up and will still try and win this Grand Prix as Mikey holds it round the outside. These two have been wheel to wheel for almost the entire lap. It's the inside line for Mikey, the outside line for Viper, and Viper sweeps around the outside and takes a position. A lovely move from the Invicta man.
And he very much has stuck with him and just watched the laps go down, but kept himself in good spirits. And that was fantastic racing from the two of them. And a phenomenal eye to seek out that overtake. And can he hold on? Because this is the final real chance he's got.
Mikey about 6/10 back from the Invicta car, trying to follow the slipstream, but nothing doing as Viper weaves and weaves and weaves, but Mikey is gaining with the DRS, and this is going to be very close as we enter the braking zone. To the inside goes Mikey, and through on the inside. But for Mikey, it has been a season-long fought. He has never taken a step off of the podium, and while in this race he has had to fight back for the first time ever, Mikey boy is a Formula 2 champion of the world. After a beautiful drive in the sprint race, it is Viper who takes the win in the Chinese sprint. But for F1 Mikey boy, it is another podium to his collection, and it is a first career championship for him. Incredible stuff from the VAR man. He is your Season 1 Formula 2 world champion.
Thoroughly deserved. We've said all stream long about his ability and how he's performed at certain races, and that is what wins you points. That consistency is what wins you titles, and that is thoroughly earned.
It's been an absolute pleasure to watch this man drive all season long. Like I say, never taking a step off of the podium. He has always been up and around there. And like we say, it was when he first stepped into Formula 2 cars in Hungary, in the season opener. That's where his turn of form started, as he came through the grid, absolutely blitzed the field, and managed to win out in Hungary. And look what he's done with the opportunity. Mikey is your Formula 2 Season 1 World Champion.
Thoroughly deserved, as we say, but the action is not over yet.
And there are your results then. Viper wins the Chinese sprint. And it is Mikey boy who finishes in second and claims a first world title. It is then Just Dave in third with the fastest lap as well. Kevin Baker in fourth. Devil Diddley fifth with MCL in sixth. Hash in seventh. Dinosaur in eighth with Paul Codd, Fake Scouser, Chinzilla, Josh and Matt Connor all failing to reach the flag. And as we can see over the weekend, Viper currently leads the weekend standings, shall we say. It's then Just Dave in second after taking 2 points for his pole position. And then it is Mikey, Kevin Baker, Devil Diddley, MCL, Hash and Dinosaur. Well, what a sprint that was, and a world champion has been crowned. But do not go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, as coming up for you next is a one-shot qualifying before we go to our main feature race. And I am going to pose the question to you, Lewis. You've just won your first World Championship, the Formula 2 World Championship. How do you now get over that almost celebration phase and lock back in for a qualifying and a feature race?
I think someone like Mikey will be looking at this as he wants to get as many pole positions, as many race wins, as many podiums as possible. So I think he'll be looking at this as what better way to start off your reign as champion than go and get pole and win the next race.
Most certainly that. And I just cannot wrap my head around the season that Mikey has had. It has been so utterly dominant and a true deserved winner. Fake Scouser put up an incredible fight, but unfortunately for him, today was not to be. A torrid sprint race, and he will definitely be one to look out for come this qualifying and the feature race, as he looks to try and right that wrong of the sprint. And now, with no championship hanging over his head, he can just put his foot flat to the floor and try and prove that he will be here for the fight next season.
Absolutely. And you would expect that he wouldn't. You'd expect that he would very much be in that fight next season, because in the form he's in, who is anywhere near him?
Exactly that. You've got to say, looking towards next season already, and I mean, we've even got a round after this still to go, but looking to next season, drivers like Mikey, who will be the reigning world champion, you've then got Fake Scouser, you've got people like Viper. It looks to be an incredible season, and we still haven't finished this one.
Yeah.
Here we go then, towards the grid, and 5 red lights ahead of the drivers, and it is lights out, and away we go for the feature race. And already some wheel banging going on. Chinzilla looks to have stalled on the grid, but has got going. Just Dave gets away well from pole position. It is then Fake Scouser in second, looking to right the wrongs of the sprint. Mikey already in fourth, and looking to go around the outside of MCL and take third away from him. That'd be a nice move if he can pull that off. It just looks like it is manageable for Mikey, and he has pulled the move off. Lovely stuff from the newly crowned world champion. In behind, we've got Dinosaur looking to the inside of MCL. We've got contact in behind. That was between Viper and Kevin Baker, I believe, but all the drivers getting through cleanly and okay. Like we saw on the grid, there was a car stopped. That was Chinzilla. He has managed to get going now, but even more contact going on as we head through the next couple of corners, and Dinosaur really looking to put pressure on. And we see here Hash all over the back of Viper, looking to get himself involved in the fight. We've got Devil Diddley, who's managed to get past Paul Codd for 10th place. And that's Paul Codd, was it? There was a car going very, very deep, and that was Hash, sorry, going very deep into that late braking zone. And he's lost a few positions. Viper and Kevin Baker both looking to come at Matt Connor here. But a clean opening lap by most segments, you would have said. Here's Viper on board with him, looking to the inside of Kevin Baker. Towards the hairpin we go. And Viper braking a little bit early there. And that will allow Kevin Baker to try and go back round the outside. Nothing doing for him, though. Viper up to 6th.
Very, very good move from Viper. Matt Connor broke so late that I can't quite understand what went on there. All I saw was him career off the track as if he was in the wet. So, not the ideal line, shall we say.
Most certainly not. Mikey is really close behind to the back of Fake Scouser, and you've got to remember these two were the title protagonists until literally about 5 minutes ago. And there might be some unfinished business between these two for next season. Well, why wait for next season when we can finish that business now? Mikey is saying as he looks to come at the back of the MP Motorsport man. We've then got MCL in 4th, Dinosaur 5th. It is then Viper in 6th, Kevin Baker 7th, Matt Connor 8th, Devil Diddley 9th, and Josh in 10th place. We've then got Paul Codd 11th, Chinzilla 12th, and Hash in 13th. Quite a way back, I believe. May have came into the pits for a new front wing or some new tyres. But it looks like everyone through cleanly so far. And interestingly, Mikey, on the soft compound tyres, he will surely look to try and get past as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. He will not be satisfied with anything other than the levels we know he can be at, and this will not be the level he thinks he can perform at. So he will be looking at this as a way to get back to it. As here he is wheel to wheel with Fake Scouts, and he's through, but he's off. Comes back on. Will he have to give that back? I don't think so.
I must say, going too wide through the final corner is definitely a braggadocious move, but Mikey Boy making it stick all the while going off the track. Viper and Dinosaur were battling into the final corner, or into the hairpin, sorry, and Dinosaur going very, very late on the brakes and just getting held up a bit on the exit, and Viper managed to get that move back. Kevin Baker now looking towards the outside of Dinosaur, and that's a brave move round the outside. There wasn't much of a gap there, and Dinosaur definitely caught napping. Nothing doing for him, though. Josh manages to get his way through on Matt Connor and up into 9th place. And the ART man makes his way through. He's now got about a second gap to Devil ahead of him, but I'm sure Josh will bring that down quickly. Mikey just falling out of the DRS of Just Dave, and Dave doing a very good job from pole position to lead the way, and Mikey has fallen out of that DRS, I believe. So it's going to be difficult for him to try and hold Fake Scouser behind. The gap around 7/10 though, you would imagine that might be enough for Mikey. We've got MCL looking to gain on the back of Fake Scouser, Viper on the back of MCL, Dinosaur has then fallen all the way back, and Kevin Baker is looking to come at him, and quite an easy move. Devil is also involved in that fight and moves to the outside of Dinosaur, looking to try and make that move stick. Very, very tight between them, but it does look like Devil has managed to get that move done. We'll go into the final corner now. Dinosaur trying to hold it round the outside, goes off the track and does inevitably lose the position to Devil Diddley, and Dinosaur down a couple of positions in one corner.
Not the ideal scenario for him, but still plenty of time if he can just get back on track, try and iron out those mistakes. But it can be very difficult, especially in Formula 2 cars, when you don't have that power. You make a mistake and you're not gaining as much as you're used to in a Formula 1 car. But that is just the circumstances. You just have to kind of accept it and try and put it in the back of your mind.
Exactly that, and that is the thing with these Formula 2 races. As much as there's not many laps, they are quite long, because obviously the Formula 2 cars, especially compared to the Formula 1 cars, are quite a bit slower. We've got a yellow flag. I believe that may have been for Matt Connor, but he seems to have righted that car, and he is pointing in the right direction, going off the track for good measure. But with the laps being so long, and with the races being a little bit more elongated than you would imagine, there is a lot of time to try and get work done. Now, obviously, unlike the Formula 1 cars, there is no ERS system, so it is realistically purely based on pace. Aside from the DRS, obviously 2 DRS zones around here, one down the back straight, one down the main straight, as we see Kevin Baker using that to try and get past Devil Diddley, but going very wide in the process, and Kevin will lose that position again, and Devil moves up to 6th behind his Invicta teammate. But not many driving aids that you have in a Formula 2 car, and it does really just come down to pure pace. You know, obviously the setups will be a bit different, and, you know, tyre wear can be a bit different depending on how you use them. But it is largely the same in Formula 2 cars. While not a complete spec series, it's probably as close to a spec series as you're going to get for a Formula series. So it is quite difficult, especially on the games, to try and make certain things work. Strategy obviously plays a part as well, but pace is the real horse in Formula 2.
Absolutely. There, as we say, there is no other than DRS, I could say, is the closest thing to an actual aid. It is much more about driver skill and when the the slight decisions you make, how much later do you brake, when do you get on the accelerator, that is the difference. Makes a huge difference in qualifying. In the race, a little bit different, as it is not as easy to overtake without those aids. As you can see, a 5/10 gap in Formula One cars is not much. However, in Formula 2 cars, it can be actually quite large.
Exactly that, and that's the thing. It's all about the DRS, especially around a track like China, where the DRS is so powerful, as we just saw Fake Scouser using it to get past Mikey, and Mikey now looking to use the DRS to get back past Fake Scouser. The gaps don't fluctuate as much, as there's big contact there between second and third place, and MCL, looking to involve himself in this battle, runs a little bit onto the grass and has to back out of it. But the gaps don't really fluctuate a large amount, as we see Viper on the inside of MCL looking to get his way through. The inside line will be for MCL, breaking very early though, and Viper is up into fourth. And Mikey going very wide and off the track there, and that's almost going to invite Viper to come through and into third place. Mikey just manages to stick with him. Viper round the outside, and just like he did in the sprint race to take the lead, Viper uses the exact same move on the exact same opponent to get himself through into third.
Good move. He's made himself up 7 positions in just 6 laps, and with 10 to go, could he potentially try and put Dave under any pressure?
I mean, there's definitely a shout. That's the thing though, the DRS is so powerful, especially in a Formula 2 car, that it's difficult to eke out gaps. I mean, a 1.6 second gap that Dave's got out in front is probably considered quite large, to be honest, and it would take a big mistake from Dave to lose that gap. The gap now down to 1.5, and these Formula 2 cars are very difficult to drive, I must say, especially if you are a driver that primarily races Formula 1 cars. Stepping into a Formula 2 car is a whole different kettle of fish. The traction's different, the throttle's different, the brake's different, the tyres are different. There's not a similarity at all, apart from the fact that they're single-seater cars. So it's quite a learning experience, and that also will contribute to the gaps opening up a little bit. And a 6-second gap between Matt Connor and Kevin Baker, there is not a chance in hell that Matt Connor will gain that back unless Kevin Baker makes some sort of absolutely huge, massive mistake.
No, I think you're bang on there. There's not, as you say, really the ability to push as much, because you don't have the same luxuries of different tyre strategies or ERS. So it is a lot more down to, they're built towards more closer racing, shall we say.
Most certainly. And obviously there is just the general speed difference of Formula 1 and Formula 2 cars, but then you add things in like the driver aid of ERS that is so manual. That's really where the racing takes a turn, because with ERS, you can always harvest it in different places and deploy it in different places, and it's quite easy for the driver to do what they want. Whereas in a Formula 2 car, when all you have is the DRS, you don't choose where you use that. You don't choose if you deploy it in this straight or down the next straight or whatever. You know where the DRS zones are, and that's when you use them. And there is really no other way you can gain on a driver apart from just being quick yourself. And, I made the comparison to the Formula 1 cars, and if you drive them, it is quite difficult. And that is one of the biggest difficulties, is understanding that there isn't really much you can do apart from just driving as quickly as you can.
And that is all you can do. It is a lot more down to speed and driver ability compared to Formula One, but it can be frustrating when you are close to a driver, 5, 6 tenths away, but just can't do anything about it because you don't have all the different tools you would have. So it can be quite disheartening, but you just have to keep on with it. And as we say, just try and force a mistake or find somewhere to gain a little bit of time. But it can be very, very difficult.
Exactly that. While we were talking about that, Mikey Boy has come into the pits. Now, you would imagine that he would have been one of the first to pit, being on the soft compound tyres. We saw Viper get up into second, and he is now well within the DRS duct of Just Dave. So Just Dave, who has led this race very, very comfortably for 8 laps, now is going to be put under his almost first real pressure test, as Viper getting very, very close to the back of him. Mikey, you would imagine, will just try and work those tyres in nicely. None of the top 3 pit, none of the top 4 pit. Devil also doesn't pit, nor does Kevin Baker. So the medium guys staying out a lot longer. And you would imagine Mikey will gain with the undercut. However, how powerful is that undercut going to be? And if done correctly by the guys in the top 5, the top 6, will the soft tyres have enough pace to then re-overtake him with the laps that they're given?
It is, I think, a lot more, potentially even without the strategy of tyres and ERS. It can be a far more difficult race to plan because you don't really have any idea of what's going to happen when, whereas in an actual F1 race, you know, okay, drivers will pit around this time, and that's where you need to up your pace. But with the F2 cars, I feel like the strategy is just push from lap 1 to the end of lap 16.
Exactly that, and pushing is exactly what PRF1 Viper is doing. He is right on the back of Just Dave and is closing in massively, and surely this move for the lead will be an inevitability. Sorry, I can't speak English today. As the Invicta man well within the DRS and the weaving going on between the two leaders. But here comes Viper then to the inside and does get the move done. Just Dave breaks with him. Viper chooses the last available point to turn in, forces Dave to the outside, and Viper takes the lead of the race and now comes into the pits, followed by Dave. Fake Scouser stays out to take the lead. We've also got MCL staying
Penalty
out,
for Viper.
Devil staying out, and Viper, the man that has literally just taken the lead of the race and looked incredibly on course for a race win. A 10-second time penalty, that will be absolutely huge in the final stages. And surely now the baton swings back to Just Dave.
Very, very critical point. It didn't look like the cleanest entry into the pits for Viper. I was on board behind him, and I could see him almost hit the wall from what I saw. And then, yeah, it seems like maybe that has knocked the equilibrium and just completely put him into an environment where now the win you would expect is just, I can't see it.
Interestingly enough, Mikey came out 2.3 seconds behind the top 2. Kevin Baker came in and Mikey undercut him by quite a large amount. We know Kevin Baker was a while off of the 2 leaders. But Mikey, maybe not the greatest pace on the media compound tyres, and really not gaining at all. And you would imagine that the soft runners of Viper and Dave will only gain away from him. Dave has fallen out of the DRS duct of Viper, but he will not care about that as long as he stays within 10 seconds, which is near enough impossible to drop out of. He will win this race. Fake Scouser coming into the pits along with MCL, Devil Diddley following them in as well, as is Matt Connor. So Viper and Dave will continue to lead in this race. Did I see someone else pick up a speeding in the pit lane penalty there?
I believe I saw it. I can't say I saw who for. I think I
MCL.
saw it out
It's
of my eye.
MCL
Wow.
who has a 10-second penalty. So 2 drivers coming into the pit lane as Viper takes the lead of the race once more. Dave comes out in second. Fake Scouser is going to feed out in third. And Mikey is right behind him. And maybe on the colder tyres, Mikey can try and challenge Fake Scouser for the time being. But MCL with a 10-second penalty on top of his 3-second penalty that he already had. And this race completely turned upside down in the pit stop phase.
Absolutely. So who do you say has the advantage now? Surely Dave.
Well, you would imagine so. I mean, 2.1 seconds off the lead, yes, but he's got a 3.6 second gap behind. So he can just, you know, race for himself and knock down the laps, knowing that Viper's got a 10-second penalty ahead of him. Same with Mikey boy. Mikey will know that Viper got that penalty and will surely just be happy to cruise behind for now. As long as he stays within 10 seconds of him, he will pick up a podium. The gap to him now, currently 7.3, so definitely not a foregone conclusion, especially with Viper being on the softer compound tyres. But if Mikey can just try and stick with it, or just hold on to the tyres, there is a chance that he could be on for a podium. The newly crowned world champion not having the most ideal feature race, maybe a little bit of a blunder with the strategy to start on the softs and end on the mediums. Probably not the best idea as Viper sets the fastest lap of the race. But this is going to be difficult for Viper because a 10-second gap in Formula 2 is an absolute eternity.
And he doesn't have that much time to build it, so I can't say I see a world in which that happens.
It will certainly be very difficult for him, but he continues to lead for now. It is then Just Dave in second. Fake Scouser is in third. Mikey Boy fourth, and we've got Dinosaur, who is out of the session and has retired, I believe, through the turn 1 and 2 complex. Looks like a manual retirement, so no need for a virtual safety car or full safety car. We've got MCL in fifth, right behind Mikey, and this is the closest battle on track. 3/10 separating them. MCL on the better tyres, but with the 10-second penalty. We've then got Devil in 6th place, Kevin in 7th, and they are beginning to battle away as well. And Mikey going a little bit wide there on the brakes, and MCL looking to chop underneath, and does manage to make the chop, and manages to make the move. Mikey will try and hold it around the outside, and does try and get the position back, but it isn't going to work for him as MCL will get the DRS as well. It looks like Mikey's quicker in a straight line, but MCL with the DRS cruises out in front of the VAR man, and Mikey down to 5th on track. But with the penalties, I will just check again, the gap to leader now 9.7, so you would imagine Viper probably still placed for a podium. But anything can change in the 4 laps we still have to negotiate.
And there's quite a distance between them as well. For 1 lap, or for less than really a third of a lap to have got past him and pull out that lead, that could take a little bit of time to make back up. But if there's one driver that can do it, it is the world champion.
Most certainly that. He's world champion for a reason, and this would be, quite interestingly enough, I believe the first race the entire season that Mikey will have finished off of the podium. So you can definitely tell the world champion just taking a bit of a step back and enjoying this feature race. Obviously still fighting away. He's not going to give anything up for free, but definitely taking a more chilled approach as he now knows that the work is done and he can just start to enjoy himself for the rest of the season.
but he could actually still end up with a podium, as Viper and MCL's penalties right now, he would obviously finish in front of MCL, but he's only a second off of being within the zone of Viper. So if he can claw that second back in the next three, he would take a podium.
Yeah, I was talking about that, and Mikey was in the 10-second gap and then fell out of it. And you wouldn't imagine he's going to claw that back because he is on the worst compound of tyres. You would imagine Viper's tyres will easily be able to last, although Mikey in the DRS of MCL, that will be aiding him. The gap to leader for Mikey at the minute, 10.8. And that will gain with DRS, but will fall down, especially battling away with MCL. MCL almost letting Mikey pass there. And Mikey back through into 4th. We know he doesn't really need to fight that because of MCL's 10-second penalty. However, like I say, this could be the first time the entire season Mikey does not finish on the podium. And that is true testament to how good he's been.
Yeah. And it's not a case of, he's not made it and he's finished 7th, 8th. He's still only just off of it. So that consistency is still just remarkable.
Lap 14 of 16 of this feature race, and it is PRF1 Viper who leads out in front, but with a 10-second penalty hanging over his head, Just Dave is doing more than enough to come home and win this Grand Prix. It is Fake Scouser in 3rd, and after losing the World Championship just merely about half an hour ago now, he will be trying to fight back and show that he is in the fight for next season. Mikey Boy is in 4th under immense pressure from MCL, but with a 13-second penalty. You can imagine there isn't really much to fight for there. It is Devil Diddley who is in 6th. It is Kevin Baker in 7th. Matt Connor in 8th. Paul Codd, who I've just transitioned to, in the wall in 9th place. And that looks like the corner before the hairpin. So a bit of an odd place to go off there for Paul Codd, but manages to keep the engine running and sets off once more, albeit with a bit less of a front wing than he would have liked. And is that I think the entire right side of his front wing is gone for Paul Codd. We've then got Hash in 10th and a few retirees. Paul Codd, you would imagine, will come into the pits at the end of this lap. MCL manages to get past Mikey for 4th place. And Paul Codd does not dive into the pits, so keeps on going in that striking pink car. I didn't even know that was there, I'll be honest. We've got Viper, who again continues to lead. MCL leads Mikey in the battle for 4th. Devil Diddley bringing himself back into this fight, and with a 3-second penalty won't help him get past Mikey. But we are now moving towards the final lap of this race, where Viper leads and Just Dave is well poised to take a win.
And one he's very much had to earn. He had to fight for it at times, but even though he's going to win due to a penalty, he's been up there, and we say it often, you have to capitalize on luck when it falls your way.
Exactly that. Started from pole position, did Dave. Fell back during that sort of middle stint after leading for so long, but is doing more than enough now to stay within reach of Viper and take home a feature race win. But commiserations to Viper. He has driven absolutely beautifully, and a 4-second gap he's managed to pull is millennia in Formula 2 machinery. So we can definitely see the pace of him, and he will definitely be somebody to watch in the final round next week and next season for sure in the championship fight Fake Scouser will definitely also be up there. But today's day most certainly was Mikey's, taking the championship in the sprint race, and a well-deserved championship at that.
Absolutely. You have to be good to win races. You have to be great to win titles. And Mikey has just been a class above the rest of the field this season. So thoroughly, thoroughly earned.
Viper is now coming towards the final hairpin, gets the car turned in for one more time, and will win this on track with a dominant display. As he comes around the final corner now, it is PR F1 Viper who wins the Chinese feature race on track. But for Just Dave, after starting on pole position, he wins the Chinese feature race. It is Fake Scouser who finishes in second. Viper will hold on to the final podium position as Mikey Boy, the new world champion, finishes in fourth. Devil Diddley will take home fifth, with MCL in seventh as Kevin Baker also jumps him with that 10-second penalty. Matt Connor will come home to finish eighth, and then it will be Paul Codd in ninth and Hash in 10th place. But the story of tonight and the story of the season, Mikey Boy wins the World Championship and is your first ever Formula 2 World Champion here in NRRL.
And he has done it with this race. Still a pretty impressive performance to end up with fourth, consistent as we say, but winning the title the way that he has been for pretty much all of the season and being up right towards the top end of the grid.
Exactly that. A championship is won through a season of hard work. And that is exactly what Mikey has done. He has not just been dominant or worked hard in one race. It has been in every single one of them. And he is a deserved winner of the Formula 2 Championship. And there is the race done then. And Just Dave taking home a feature race victory here in China. And a great race it was. As they make their way to the podium now, and there is confirmation of our feature race. It is Just Dave who wins from Fake Scouser, Viper, Mikey Boy, Diddley, Kevin Baker, MCL, Matt Connor, Paul Codd, and Hash, with Dinosaur, Chinzilla, and Josh failing to reach the flag. And overall, there is your results. Just Dave with a dominant weekend in Formula 2. It is then Viper who is in second, Mikey in third, Fake Scouser fourth, Devil Diddley fifth, Kevin Baker sixth, MCL seventh, Matt Connor eighth, Hash in ninth, Paul Codd 10th, Dinosaur 11th, with Chinzilla and Josh failing to score any points. Well, what a two races and what an event that was. And Mikey Boy is crowned world champion at the end of it all. Thank you very much for watching. I have been JP, your commentator. Alongside me has been Lewis. We will be back tomorrow for the Sunday 100% tier. Do join us there if you are new. Hit a follow down below. Follow us on Twitch. Follow us on TikTok. Thank you for watching.